We say in Bentching Bites, which we spoke about last week. Then we say Magdil Yeshuos Malkoi, Oisa Chesed Lemshichoi, the David Ulazari Ad Olam. Pasuk in Tehillim tells us Magdil Yeshuos Malkoi, Perek Yud Ches, and you should just know this entire Perek is repeated in Shmuel Beis, almost verbatim. So Hashem said, we say Magdil Yeshuos Malkoi, he should make Godel, he should make great, make bigger. The Yeshua is Malkoi, the salvation of his Melech, of his king, right? Right? David Ulazari, Oisa Chesed Lemshichoi, does Chesed for his anointed one, David Ulazari, to David and his children Ad Olam, because we know the Malchus continues on through Beis David. Now we all know that in all our Sidurim and all our benchers, right, it says that we say Magdil during the week. Shabbos, Yom Tov, Chodesh, depends on which city you look at, maybe Lav Malka, to say Migdoil instead of Magdil. Now where does it come from, the switch, and what's the difference between the two words? Now, like I said before, in Tehillim and once again in Shmuel Beis, we have almost the same Perek repeated. And in Shmuel Beis, instead of saying Magdil Yeshuos Malkoi, we have the exact same pasuk, but instead it says in Migdoil Yeshuos Malkoi. Now, interestingly enough, the Torah Temimah in his Sefer Baruch Sha'omar says that he thinks this idea of switching from the way it's written in Tehillim to the way it's written in Shmuel Beis, he felt was a Torah Sefer, was a printing error. And he says that he thinks that in the original prints, it said Beis Shin Beis in parentheses, which would stand for Bishmuel Beis. And a later printer came along and said, why is it in parentheses? I'm going to write it out, and we'll say Bishabbos. And then it somehow became B'Yom Tiv, etc., etc. That's what the Baal Torah Temimah says, and he says he thinks the whole thing really is a Torah Satfus. However, there's one very big problem with that theory. The problem is that Abu Draham was a Rishon, right, from the 1300s, 1200s, 1300s, well before there was a differentiation between Shmuel Aleph and Shmuel Beis in the Yiddish Tanakh, which didn't happen with Pashas till the 1500s, till the advent of the printing press, and the Tanakhs were printed, that we stuck in the Prokim, and the division of Shmuel Aleph and Shmuel Beis in the Yiddish Tanakh. Abu Draham, who lived well before that, he says, Kibalti miraboisai, says he accepted from his Rebbeim. Ki b'Shabbos yeshloim Migdoil Yeshuos bevav u'bechel Magdil b'yud. He says he was ready mekabel from his Rebbeim to differentiate between Shabbos and Chol. And he says the reason is Shabbos hu melech godel keneged ha'chol. When we look at Shabbos versus weekday, it's looking like at a melech godel versus a melech katan, we'll say, or lack of a kingship, right? He says, so Migdol, which is Malei Vav, the word Migdol is with a Vav, from the word Godol, with a Vav in it, that represents Shabbos. Godol without a Vav, Gimel Dal Yud, which then becomes pronounced as Magdil, that is connected to Chayil, a smaller, lower degree of greatness, and we say that during the week. Now that would be for Shabbos versus the Chayil. He doesn't say anything about Yom Tov versus Chodesh all the other days. And he says that's one reason why we would say Migdoil on Shabbos and Magdil during the week. V'ayid, he says another reason. Magdil hu b'Tehillim. Magdil is in Tehillim. Migdoil is in Shmuel Beis. So Magdil in Tehillim was written before David was actually king. So before he was king, it's Magdil, should be made great. Migdoil, from the word Gadoil, which is a greater level of greatness, is in Shmuel Beis, and after David HaMelech was king, and therefore, he says, therefore during the week, we talk about before, but on Shabbos, when we talk about the greatness, we talk about the Gadoil with the Vav of after David HaMelech was king. So we see here this differentiation already in Abu Draham, which means it's very difficult to say that this was a printing error of the Shmuel Beis, when there was no Shmuel Aleph or Shmuel Beis yet in the time of Abu Draham. So this would give some credence to this, at least on Shabbos, saying Migdoil instead of Magdil. The Ragged Shavuot going also in Save itself as Beneach, he says to be mechalak between Shabbos. He says Magdil b'Tehillim b'Ksuvim u'Migdol b'Neviim. He says Magdil is in Tehillim, which we know is in Ksuvim. Migdoil is in Shmuel Beis, which is Nevi'im. He says based on the Gemara Shabbos Kuf Tezayin that we don't read Ksuvim on Shabbos by Mincha. He says therefore by Shalosh Shudas one would not bench with the word Magdil because that would be like saying from Ksuvim. And once by Shalosh Shudas we say Migdoil, so already the rest of Shabbos we say Migdoil. Just to point out, based on what we spoke about last week, similarly, the greatness of eating 3 Sudas, you see here that obviously one should bench by Shalosh Shudas, which means you should wash for Shalosh Shudas, right? Because the whole benching of Shalosh Shudas is where it comes to say Migdol, then we say it the whole rest of Shabbos. Obviously, he felt one should be benching by Shalosh Shudas as well. And another reason to differentiate between Magdil and Migdol.